it's important to understand that the European Union has a democracy legitimacy crisis. They claim they are democratic, but when you actually look at the institution, it doesn't feel like they are. Because if they were, you would actually notice various ideologies gaining power. For example, it wouldn't be a crisis if the nationalist sovereigntists would manage to seize control of the European Union through democratic elections. And they would govern for 4 years, and then if they get voted out, you would have the environmentalists have their turn. That is normal in a democratic country. For example, if you look at the United States, you can see exactly that. Kamala Harris's policies are completely different than those of Donald Trump. And yet, power exchanged hands. In the European Union, we don't have that. It's the same people at the top which have the same policies for more than 2 decades. And so, question is, how do they manage to do that? Well, the way they manage to do that is mostly through censorship, by not allowing people to talk with each other, by making sure that people are fed only the correct type of information. You see, in the European Union, there is no such thing as disagreement. In the European Union, you have the experts, the consensus, and then you have the misinformation, the disinformation, the people allied with Putin, or the people that want to bring upon the Fourth Reich if allowed to speak. And so, if you look at the history of what happened, you will notice something very interesting. In the beginning, the European Union seemed to have access to the printing press. For some reason, most of the media across Europe kind of agreed on similar narratives, and opposite viewpoints were rarely, if ever, even presented. For example, when you had the mass immigration crisis, which Angela Merkel started, there was that picture of the dead kid on the shores of Greece. And that picture, despite the fact that it showed the dead child, that it was sensitive content, managed to do the rounds in Europe on every single television station, on every single newspaper, with journalists from different countries, different nationalities, different political affiliation, reaching the exact same conclusion. No alternatives were presented. The idea is that we need to open the doors and use our welfare state in order to house as many refugees as humanly possible. People that disagreed found themselves in danger of losing their jobs or reputations. The problem starts with social media. Social media at the time was very new, but more and more young people started using it. And the problem is that those young people were also pretty wealthy. In the beginning, to have internet access, it was quite expensive, and so mostly rich households had that. And the children of rich people were starting to radicalize towards the right wing. They didn't seem to agree with what the European Union and the journalists were saying. They had different viewpoints. And so most of this, at least in Europe, most of these people start to gravitate towards Twitter. At the time, Jack Dorsey was saying that Twitter is the free speech platform. And this got the European Union to become quite concerned. Because what they noticed is that when you allow people to talk, Donald Trump wins elections in the United States, much to the shock of Germany. I don't know how many of you remember, but when Donald Trump actually won the first elections, the German foreign minister was caught saying that he has not a single contact within the Trump administration. They were so sure that Hillary Clinton is going to win that they didn't even bother reaching to the Trump administration, which they were convinced was a joke. And so they had to take measures. They looked at Facebook and they picked what they considered the Cambridge Analytica scandal, where a private company that worked for Donald Trump at the time managed to look at the type of likes, clicks, and retweets that people have, see how many of them are right-wingers, and see what their concerns are. And they capitalized on those concerns, used it on the Trump campaign, and that's how Trump managed to get a lot of independent voters. The European Union thought that this is a massive invasion of privacy, and that's when they pushed for their GDPR platform, right? Like, they don't like companies getting involved into people's private life. Regardless of that, that is when they started regulating social media. They realized that they actually can. Despite the fact that social media belongs to the Americans and their companies based in California, the European Union can basically force them to comply. And if they don't, they can fine them. So the addiction also becomes financial. If the American companies do not operate in the EU and cannot be taxed that way, they can be taxed through various fines. Also, the American companies genuinely like GDPR because it guarantees that European social media companies do not have the resources and capital for compliance. And so Silicon Valley is more likely to not have a competitor in the future. Yeah, the European Union starts escalating, and eventually they have their entire initiative with trusted flaggers, experts, vetted authors that are going to decide what is true and what is misinformation. And this is like the peak of the censorship era during Jack Dorsey, where all of the social media companies would work together and they would collude with each other and simply flat out decide, yeah, like on the topic of environmentalism, any person that doesn't say the correct things is considered to be part of a misinformation campaign. They're going to be banned. They're going to be censored. And the United States government agreed with this at the time because this happened under Joe Biden. And Joe Biden was definitely in agreement with the European Union political views. But all of this has stopped. All of this has stopped when Donald Trump won elections, and more importantly, when Elon Musk has decided to buy X. And the biggest problem from the European Union is because at the time they kept saying my private company can do whatever it wants. And now my private company is actually owned by one man and it doesn't have shareholders and it can actually do whatever it wants, including telling the advertisers who try to blackmail the platform to go fuck themselves. And so this is why the European Union has a massive hate boner for Elon Musk. It's not because they necessarily disagree with the man. They don't. I mean, most European countries, like Germany, for example, actually does do business with Elon Musk. They had no problem with him before he bought Twitter. They have a problem with him now. And most of the scandals, as you can see, are astroturfed and artificial. Like, for example, the Grok put her in a bikini thing. While the European Union can pearl clutch all they want, they didn't talk at all about Gemini or ChatGPT, which could have done exactly the same thing. And so now they are trying desperately to regulate Twitter. First, they tried pushing for a massive, I guess, like information campaign, right? Because if what comes against the EU is disinformation, then the EU tried to inform the public that blue sky exists and that blue sky is much better. And you probably remember a lot of actors and a lot of prestigious people making tweets like they're departing from an airport saying that they're shutting down their Twitter account and they're going to Pedo Sky. All of them came back almost, by the way, right? So like Pedo Sky wasn't good. People didn't like it. It didn't work out. And so the European Union is now trying to create its own platform, but it's also trying to regulate X. The problem is that the European Union does not have really talented people. At least the regulators, it seems, they do not understand anything about how the actual technology works, and they are writing the worst garbage imaginable. For example, they're basically saying that they want to forcefully merge Blue Sky with X. They want the moderation team from Blue Sky to work with X. First of all, like, this would be a massive violation of the free market concept. Like, sure, you know, the market can accept certain regulations and stuff, but like at this point, you're acting like China. At this point, you're basically acting like you own both of these companies and you can make these executive decisions for these companies. This is blatant fascism. Not kidding. Like, this is exactly what Nazi Germany would be able to do with their economic policy, right? Not talking about ideology or anything, but like that's why Nazi Germany wasn't capitalist, because they could do things like this. China can do things like this. The European Union, which allegedly still tries to LARP as a capitalist nation that values liberty and freedom, should not be able to do things like this. But the main issue is also technical. X and Blue Sky may have similar architecture, but they also talk about Mastodon. Mastodon has a completely different architecture than X and Blue Sky. Mastodon is decentralized. X and Blue Sky are centralized. And so, how exactly do you want them to merge? How much are you willing to pay so that these companies can do the merger? The second problem is that they recommend that the algorithm and news feeds get shared among these platforms, with obviously, like Blue Sky having priority. Most of these algorithms are IPs, right? Like there are black box machine learning models trained on billions of proprietary interactions. These companies have contracts with subsidiaries. These contracts have NDA clauses. Like, sure, as the European Union, you can actually try to force companies to comply or get fined, but that only works if the alternative is not getting fined. In this situation, the number of lawsuits that would appear would make any company wonder, well, do we want to comply with the European Union and get the lawsuits, or do we just tell them to fuck off and get the fine? Because at the end of the day, no matter what we do, we're going to still pay money, and it's also our reputation, our brand that's at stake. Because the companies that sign NDAs, they sign it in the hope that their proprietary knowledge gets protected and not being sold to Europe. And then it's also another problem. The European Union is asking for the accounts to merge. So basically, like if you're on Blue Sky, you should be able to have now your account merged with Twitter and vice versa. Well, hold on a little bit. That violates GDPR compliance. Like, it violates the own laws that the European Union made. And then it's also the moral question. It's like, okay, so the market obviously doesn't want Blue Sky. And you're trying to force the merger of companies. For what reason? I mean, democratically speaking, if people wanted Blue Sky, they would go on Blue Sky. And it's also, like in America, you have anti-monopolist practices, right? Like if, for example, in America, let's say Facebook and Blue Sky and Twitter and Mastodon would want to merge, but you'd probably have the FDA going like, hold on a little bit, like that sounds like a monopolistic practice to me. What are you guys doing? Well, the European Union apparently was literally that. Why? Because it's easier to control, right? Like they want to be able to have their moderators in one place. They don't want to pay for different moderators because it's expensive. And so basically, in my opinion, this sounds like Chinese practices, right? Like they have various companies that do not take cultural orders from the European Union because, legally speaking, like Elon Musk is complying with the law in the EU, right? Like he is taking down child pornography. He is actually taking down what the European Union considers extremist content. But the European Union wants even more, right? Like they want the Jack Dorsey era back. And so while they can't order Elon Musk what to do, they want to order Elon Musk to become a subsidiary of Blue Sky and Mastodon. And then the EU can order Blue Sky and Mastodon what to do. And so Elon Musk, being under the hierarchy, has to comply. I don't know what will happen, but the quality of people that the European Union hires, the technocrats, is shocking. And take into account that these are the people that also legislate over our food and energy. Because at the end of the day, like I can live without Twitter, but my brother in Christ, they have similar people that work in the agriculture sector, that work in transportation, holy shit, that work in the military. Like, I'm very concerned. As a European citizen, I'm very concerned. Like, when I just listen to the level of absurdities and the fact that they like, if Twitter would comply with what they're asking, it's not about morality or anything. It's simply that it would violate the EU laws that they themselves have written. Like, you're asking a company to violate GDPR laws that you yourself have put there. Anyway, right, let me know what you guys think. And as usual, I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.